If we see him, we see him. If we don't, Hayden has found some antelope we're going to look at, and we'll come back when we find the leopard. But let's give it one more try. It is always exciting to find something, even if you re-find it. Let's just give it one more run. Saw him crossing. We went in pretty quick. We didn't see him moving through there. Maybe he stopped a little bit. Squirrel. Oh, can you see it? Cool. Let's just see whether... Guys, I hope the signals are right. We're in the dip. But the squirrel is calling. If we can see this... Oh, there he is. Yeah, well spotted, Brian. The squirrel is just sitting here. We'd like to show you, and maybe the squirrel can show us on this dead tree, yeah? On the back end. I don't want to talk too much at the moment just because of signal. I'm feeling this leopard maybe has slowed down in here. This one has calmed down, but I hear another one not too much further in. So let's just have another look here before we try and get ahead of it. Is Djuma after all. He can be a bit of a tricky subject. But a beautiful leopard. Got these sort of almond-shaped eyes. Right in front of us here, and it's difficult to actually, the car's angle, you can't see it, but right in there, these are all big trees, but they're growing out of that drainage line, so there's a good 4 or 5 meter 10-15 foot drop in there, so he could easily be in there. Trying to outguess a leopard is almost impossible, but have one more look that side. And I think we're going to move around to where he was heading. leopard has got me puzzled because I heard some bird calls this side as well. So we're trying to build a picture now from just the bits of news we're getting, you know, really just the bird sounds and the squirrel sounds, and then also just, you have to sort of feel it a bit. What was the leopard doing? Where is he going? He's got a full belly, so he's not, you know, hungry necessarily, but it is still early morning. Leopards do like to make the most of sort of their prime hunting time, which is early morning, late afternoon. And a question there from Anna. How's it, Anna? Anna's just asking if Djuma is the leopard that has a bit of a taste for aardvark. Aardvark is this almost like an ant bear. And it's, I believe, the one that's been catching aardvark lately is Tingana, which is a big dominant male further to the west of here. So not necessarily this guy, although any leopard would eat aardvark if they had the opportunity. Right, I think we're going to have to move on a bit and see if we can maybe get ahead of where he was going. Guys, my feeling is that he's still around here. This is a nice thick area, lots of tamboti, lots of thickets, termite mounds, dongas. So if he's going to settle down for the day and just sort of take it easy for a bit, this might be a place. So I've got a bit of a feeling that he might have just stopped in here somewhere. The squirrels are still calling, but very, very difficult to get in there with a vehicle. Even on foot, it's quite a challenging area. But I'm going to keep looking around a bit. I want to make sure if he's not here, so that we can follow up again. At the same time, you can join HT a little bit. He's heading up towards Buffelshoek Dam and see what's happening that side. We're going to keep looking for this leopard. We've seen him. It'll be lovely to see more of him. So we're going to focus our attention on that. Enjoy the drive with HT. Ask him one or two difficult questions, and I'll see you in a bit.
Hi folks, we've just pulled up to, or pulling up to Buffelshoek Dam. I wanted to just come up and have a little look here to see if anything's come to drink. Just come up nice and slow. Peter was with Djuma, which was fantastic to hear. That is brilliant news. Great stuff. Lovely little elephant encounter we had this morning. Just to have a little recap, but I wanted to just come up here and see if there was any activity. This is always a great spot as we're driving past. I'm going to also cut back through Djuma now, but I like to come and just sit on this damn wall because you never know what you can see. You just stop for a minute. Lovely grey heron over there, and just pull up for a second and see what's around. Just having a little scan around the place. Sometimes you will see a predator laid up. It is getting, the sun's getting higher. Definitely feeling the temperature start to rise. And the flies are definitely wanting to be my friend. So over on the other side of the dam there, that grey heron, I think if we try to get any closer to him, he'd probably fly, and they have a tendency to do. You can see the stance that he has there. It's a lovely little silhouette. That particular posture, that neck acts as like a spear or a throwing implement to throw that spear, that lovely sharp beak. And while we were sitting here watching Djuma yesterday to cross from Pete, that grey heron did actually get a beautiful fish, and sorry, it was Quarantine, wasn't it? We were watching, of course, Q, silly me. And when we were sitting there watching Q, that grey heron did spear a beautiful fish. They're an elegant bird. You can see with that beautiful reflection there. They'll just stand motionless on the edge of the water there and wait until a fish swims close enough to them where they'll launch themselves into that water and try and spear a fish. They get up to about 100 centimetres tall, which is about 3 feet. And another one of those birds that gets very, very tall but don't weigh a great deal, only coming up to about probably about 1.5, just under 1.5 kilograms. And that is about, oh goodness, my conversions, that is about 3.5 pound, 4 pound maybe. So not very heavy bird, but definitely very tall. And this grey heron has been resident here, or well, I'm not sure if it's the same one, but there's always a grey heron here. And they do love those shallow waters on the edge where they'll do their hunting. I think one of the things I wanted to show you is you don't often hear what they sound like. So what I'll do for you is give you a little picture up close here. If you can come around, Andrew, see if we can get this without the reflection. I've got my little app here ready for you. I just brought a little picture of this, because it is quite far away, so if I can just try and get this right for Andrew so he's got no reflection on it there. It's a little bit hard to see, isn't it? I might come down into, I think you can get a little bit of an idea there, but we've seen the animal across the other side. But what we don't often get to hear is the call. So I'm just going, this is a great little thing. Hear that really deep. Okay, we might go back over onto him proper now. But that's the call of the grey heron that you don't often hear, and you hear that really high shrill at the beginning, and then it goes into a deeper grunting sort of a sound. But they're a very, very nice bird, a very elegant bird, the grey heron. We'll put him on our list. A common bird to see, but at the same time, I don't think you can drive past these beautiful birds if they're right in front of your very eyes. Really important that we understand, as we've always said, everything fits into the habitat from the ground up. I'm just going to poke our nose in the other side there to see if there's any, because there's a lot of little shaded areas over there. See what else we can see. But how nice is that? Djuma and Q in 2 days. And I really enjoyed that elephant encounter with you this morning, everyone. It's just such a beautiful thing to be in the presence of elephant. I'm just going to stop talking for a second. We might have a bit of break-up in this little gully here. Okay, I'm sure we got good signal back. But that elephant encounter is always quite special, and I just said to Andrew as we drove off and crossed over to Peter, that's quite a nice shot just there, mate. That grey hair and lovely backlit. How's that for you, matey? Just a nice another shot of that animal from the other side. You get a nice look at its body shape there. I'm sorry, I just threw Andrew into that, but as I was driving, sometimes you just stop and see out of the corner of your eye a lovely shot, and it's like kind of backlit. You can sort of, oh, nice. And then he was gone. Lovely stuff. So yeah, just to recap, the Ellies were quite beautiful. Very, very tolerant herd, and that's what I love about elephant, is you just get to know them, you get to spend a little bit of time with them. They'll probably be absolutely fine with you. Just watching myself there. Sorry about this, bit of an angle up here, guys. We're going to head down this way. And if you've just joined us, welcome aboard. Fantastic to have you with us. Wild Safari Live, coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves here in Sabi Sands. My name's Hayden. If it's the first time I've met you, it's great to meet you. And if you've got any questions for us, please tweet us at #SafariLive or send an email to us at questions@WildEarthTV. And remembering that, you are an incredibly important part of this project. We can't do it without you. We wouldn't do it without you. We wouldn't have anyone to do it. Well, we drive around the bush, that's for sure, which we love doing. But to share this with you is the most important thing. You out there with us and having these experiences is just incredible. And when some of the wonderful interaction on social media, everyone's been incredibly kind, welcoming Pete and I back. But I also just want to give a bit of a thanks to the rest of the team, and Nikki and Tara in final control this morning. They're an absolute joy to work with, both of them. They're really wonderful. It's my first couple of days working with them, so having a really, really fine time. And all the old faces, Will Fox and Graham and Emily and everyone. I don't mean old faces, I mean, familiar faces is probably the right term I should have used there. But it's just great to be back and meeting up with Brent and Stefan and having Scott back on, just catching up with Scotty and Brian. Everyone, just brilliant, and everyone's been fantastic and very welcoming to Pete and I. It's good to be back on board, folks. You're amazing. Some of the support. I just really, really heartfelt thanks to all your wonderful messages that you've sent to us as well. Because I tell you what, we feel like it's been coming home. Really, it has. I'm just going to stop here and answer this question, Catherine. Catherine's in Dallas, and hi, Catherine, to you. Welcome aboard. Fantastic to have you with us. The reason why I'm stopping is because just this little area here can get a little bit bumpy for signal, and it might pixelate a little bit. Not always, but I just like to pre-warn it and not answer your question whilst that's happening. Catherine's asking, you're wondering why we're not seeing more primates, and also why we're not seeing pangolin. Well, the first one is the primate species are not as prolific as it is in Central Africa. We've got vervet monkeys and baboon that we see probably more likely than anything else. We do see trips of vervet monkeys. The baboons probably don't spend as much time here as we would like, but when we do see them, we will always stop, and as we will with vervet monkeys. You go up into Central Africa, around the equatorial Africa, you'll start to see loads more primates. It's a very, very different scenario up there. But on the pangolin front, wow, that's a situation. Pangolins are not only very, very elusive, but in dire straits at the moment, and you can probably look a little bit more up about that online, about the pangolin situation after you've watched Safari Live. But they also are very, very much nocturnal or active in the cooler and quieter times, darker times. So we won't be seeing them at this time of the day. And we normally operate just on the beginning of sunrise and up to the morning when it starts to get a bit hotter, and then into the afternoon. They're also very elusive. If they heard the vehicle, they'd probably make themselves scarce. So that's probably the reason why we don't see them, Catherine. I have had the privilege of helping, or not helping, but staying with a friend of mine for a bit who was hand rearing a pangolin, a wonderful woman over in Namibia, Maria, and she is probably the pangolin queen, and she's doing a lot for pangolin conservation, and they're absolutely extraordinary creatures, just mind-blowing. They're prehistoric, they're like little dinosaurs. And that's to answer your question, Catherine. Probably just we're a little bit loud for pangolin. They're very elusive. And if we do see any vervets, I'll make sure we stop and have a little bit of a look at them as well. Thanks for your question. Right. It's a lovely little area through here. Meanders this road. folks, I had a tendency to drive through there a little bit faster than I would like to, and the only reason for that is I know that the signal breaks up down there. It's a notorious spot for us. In the situation where I was from Bafusuk, I wanted to come back over this direction. I would have had to go all the way around to do that. So I wanted to cut through there, but in situations like that, I'll probably not talk to camera because I'd rather you just see the vision and not try and understand if it's breaking up, and that's just the explanation of why I did that. As you can imagine, the technology that we're using is pretty incredible. We've got a fantastic camera on the back here that Andrew operates that sends a signal out of a fantastic big aerial off the back of the vehicle. It goes over to a repeater station. We've got several of them on the properties, and then that gets transmitted to a satellite. That bounces to a satellite, which then bounces to the United Kingdom, which then goes across the United States. Now, I say to my boy sometimes, I'm like, buddy, the signal might have dropped out a little bit today or something like that when I talk to him. And he's like, Dad, just fix it. You know? It's sometimes a little bit tricky, but at the same time, all you wonderful people know how hard the whole Wild Earth team to bring these images to you. So I just wanted to sort of explain that, and I have to remind my son sometimes that it's not just fixing it, but as I said yesterday, we've got people out there in final control with brains the size of Texas that can fix anything. But we unfortunately get into these little spots where you'll get a little bit of signal drop out. We might get another one just ahead. What I'm going to do is get through this little drift here, back onto the other side, and I'll come back to you. So it's quite a nice little rest through here from my voice banging on. Nothing around here at the moment. It's an Egyptian geese. I just want to try and move on. Well, definitely don't think I'm dismissing wonderful birds like that, but I just want to try and see if we can find those elephants again. Now, Kathy in Tennessee, how are you? Great to have you on board. Wonderful to be with you. Tennessee, I've never been there. I've always wanted to go to Tennessee, and hopefully one day I will. Kathy's asking a great question, and a very interesting one at that. Whether it's coming into the rutting season. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the term rutting, you may refer to your teenage boys sometimes as rutting, but you probably will have come across it when it comes to animals that are starting to fight for territory. Fight for territory over females, and it happens particularly spectacularly with impala. An impala is a beautiful antelope which I can never drive past unless we're on a mission to go somewhere. But impala go into a rutting season, and it's quite a formidable challenge that they put on for each other, and it looks quite fearsome. And again, sometimes they can break a horn, they can get quite injured in it. Amazing vocalizations that occur as well. And Kathy's wanting to know whether predators are going to spend more time focusing their hunting on pregnant females or not. And actually, it's interesting you ask, because I don't think that they would be focusing on the pregnant female, so to speak, because it's a way off before lambing season starts. But what I do find, and I have seen before, Kathy and everyone watching, is that the rut, or the two impalas, are so fixated on competition and on winning, they actually drop their guard sometimes. And I've seen leopard take an impala ram that's been so fixated on beating his opponent that he just dropped his guard completely, and the leopard, bam, got him. that he was just taken. And so I do find that sometimes predators will take advantage of that, Kathy, much more so than potentially the pregnant females. Yeah, incredible stuff to hear. And if we do hear an impala rutting, we heard one while we were watching the elephants, but it was just a little bit ways off. It's a fearsome call. I remember when I first went to Zimbabwe in 1992, I heard them. I didn't really know what they were. And I drove out to a property that I was going to live on, and I arrived in the middle of the night, and there was no one there to greet me. It was quite an amazing time for a sort of first time out of Australia, or first time to Africa, and there was this impala rutting at night, and this incredible vocalization. I was like, what is that? And it just does not sound like it's coming out of an antelope. It sounds like a cross between a bear and a pig. It's really quite incredible. So if we do come across them, we'll definitely stop and watch them, because it's quite spectacular as well. Thanks for your question, Kathy. Just have a couple of little spots here that I'm just going to pause. I've got a really big question coming from Virginia in Kentucky. Virginia, how are you? And lovely to have you on board with us on this beautiful morning in Africa. Virginia, I'm going to answer your question. I just want to get through this little dip, and I'll definitely come to your question. But just before we get to it, Virginia does want to know, white-tailed deer in the United States and impala in the same family? I'm coming back. Stand by. Kathy, I'm sorry, Virginia. I think this is probably a safe spot to talk about this. Some lovely buffalo just here as well, which we'll cross to in a second. Virginia, the situation is you've got two very, very different families. One is the deer family, and one is the antelope family. They break up into smaller families as well. But just to explain that answer to you, deer, as you know, they will drop their antlers on an annual basis, whereas antelope have horns for their entirety of their life. Well, not all, some female species don't, but when they grow those horns, they'll grow and they'll grow and they'll grow. They get to a certain height, they start to slow down growing after a certain amount of time. Where you see on a kudu, those beautiful spiraled horned antelopes we've got here in Djuma and Arathusa and Wasabi, which we'll stop at as well when we see one. Those horns keep growing, and they get to a certain length. But your deer in the United States and the deer in the United Kingdom and Europe, they all drop their antlers and regrow them. So two different families. The difference between deer and antelope: one's got horns which stay with them, the other one has antlers which drop off on an annual basis. Thank you for your question. We've got a lovely male buffalo here. And I'm just going to gently go up to him because he's having a nice little rub on this branch. I don't want to startle him, so I think that's probably close enough for us. And you will find this behaviour carry on with the boys particularly. There's another male on the other side. I came around Twin Dams earlier this morning just for a bit of a look around before we went to live to air with all you wonderful people, and these boys were lying about the Twin Dam, rolling in the mud, as you can see, and they use that mud to protect themselves from biting flies and parasites. And at the moment they're in a bachelor group, they're in a bachelor herd. He's quite an impressive bull, this boy, And if a lion was to take him on, they'd have to be a very, very experienced hunter, or the pride would have to be very experienced, because as you can see, they've got a range of artillery or weaponry, sorry, on their head that can easily injure or fatally wound a lion. And that middle part, here's Pete. Here we go. Oh, he's on a mission to go somewhere. I think I just heard a radio call through, so he's just driving past at the moment. So that's good. I'm sure he's onto something great. So this buffalo has just come out of that wallow, and they will start to move off into some cooler parts now. And there's Pete. He's right there. We might drive up and say a quick hi. See what you see, have a little talk about Djuma. So this boy will be just sort of rubbing his horns through and doing what buffaloes do, hang out and really just finding a nice cool spot. And we'll definitely see some more as time carries on. But we'll just come up and see Pete and see what he's been up to, have a little chat about Djuma. Hello, mate. How are you, buddy?
Livingston, I presume.
Hey, how are you, mate? Good to see you. Good, mate.
See you, man.
How was Djuma?
Well, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's my first leopard since we're back, so that was very
Fantastic.
cool. And I mean, you saw Q yesterday. I was watching some of the footage last night, actually.
Yeah.
And he had such a lovely view of his brother. And for me, Djuma is a bit of a favourite for me now. He's not that easy to see, as we've learned this morning.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit of a soft spot now for that leopard. So great seeing him. He's got a bit full belly.
Yeah.
So he's had a meal. And let me just move a little bit.
How are you, Brian?
Sorry.
Good, good.
Good, mate. It's getting warming up, isn't it?
Yeah, the flies are coming out.
Yeah, the flies are after us, folks. So we won't sit for too long. But
I just want to actually update you as well, and for everyone in the vehicles.
Yeah.
We subsequently went looking for him.
Yeah.
And we were following all the different sort of bits of newspaper stuff going on, the squirrels and the birds and everything, and we deducted that he full belly, so he's probably gone for a drink at Treehouse Dam, went back, and he stayed in that area. We sort of speculated around it.
Yeah.
And it was very, very thick, and the only way to get in there was I walked in a little bit just to see. Oh, and I took my amazing. I'll tell you guys about this. This is my first walk. My first walk with this beautiful stick that Hayden brought me all the way from the UK. So my first tracking walk with him, and I found the leopard at about when he popped out 10 yards, right in the drainage line, right under some line. I mean, there's no ways you would have seen it. You couldn't have gotten there with a car. He just gave a little bark, and he went out the side, and I went in there. There's no food. I couldn't find any meat. But maybe he's got a kill there somewhere. We decided to leave him then because he was a bit spooked, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to see a leopard on foot.
Oh,
just,
mate, absolutely.
Picks up the heart rate a little bit.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Oh, that's really great. That's really great news. We've just been, we went down to Buffelshoek Dam and we've been around a little bit, and not a great deal. It's getting too hot. There's a couple of lovely buffalo just wallowing just there. Yeah, so we're just going to head down. I'm going to try and find that elephant herd again. They might have gone down into some of those little cooler dips there. And
I'm going to go up to Buffelshoek Dam. I haven't seen Buffelshoek since I've been back.
All right, mate.
Yeah, there's a couple of big crocs there, so we'll see what's going on.
All right, mate. Take care, buddy.
Guys, I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, big man.
He's basically at the Weaver's Nest dip. So if you go up here, the dip below Treehouse Dam, it's just on the left-hand area in there somewhere, but it's really thick. So maybe this afternoon.
Cheers, bud.
Catch you later.
Cheers, big man. Always nice to bump into each other on drive, have a little catch up, give a little update, find out a bit what's been going on. And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? We were at Treehouse Dam earlier this morning, and lots of buffalo through here too, folks. You'll probably find these buffalo all belong in that same bachelor group there. But it's really lovely to just know that 10 minutes ago you were there, and then a leopard's turned up. And that's just what it's about. The story unfolds, the bush unfolds. And, 5 minutes ago, Pete was there. We might drive up to Treehouse Dam now, and he might be back. You just don't know. You don't know what's around the next corner. I'd like to see those ellies again. Be nice. up to Treehouse Dam again. But Deb in Canada, lovely to have you on board, and thank you for your great question. And it's a good one. It's a question that a few times I've been asked about other species as well. Deb, you want to know why elephant herds don't get names like blind prides do? Well, the reason for that, Deb, is that the breeding herd can travel vast distances, as can the lions, but we find that the elephants, we might not see them for such a long time, and if you were doing a scientific study on them, you would probably take photographs of their ear notches and the holes in their ears, and that really is the only, or not only, but one of the most obvious ways to recognize an elephant herd. Now, sometimes those herds are small family herds of like 9 to 11 individuals on average, and then you'll get smaller, you'll get a few family groups joining up together, making a bigger herd, but still in those subgroups, and then they get bigger again, and then sometimes they split off. It is all very transient, and then there's like kinship herds, which are like relatives, distant relatives, or animals that might have been in the same herd that have split off, but they normally stay in a herd structure that is the matriarch, related females, and their offspring. It's very difficult to name herds. We can sometimes name individual animals. We had a bull here a while back, maybe in November last year, that had his trunk cut off by a snare, by the looks of things. Now, what that means is that there would have been an illegal situation where someone had put down a snare. It might not have even happened. Might have happened very far away, but it was an old wound. It was healed up, but his trunk was very short. He was surviving. He was like a 25-30-year-old bull, and he was beautiful condition, absolutely beautiful. And he had obviously been through some trauma. Now, we named him, I think Peter named him Medalla, I think it was. I can't quite remember, but I haven't seen him for a while. But we will name elephants sometimes if they've got distinguishing features like that, or a big hole in their ear, and we see them regularly. But on the whole, Deb, it's basically because they do move vast distances through these north and south corridors from Kruger National Park into Sabi Sands. And, you know, if you work down here on an annual basis and you're here day in, day out, you will recognise individuals. So hopefully that's answered your question, Deb. Thank you very much. It's a good one. I'm going to go a different way. I want to just see if I can cut off. I wonder what it's like over in California at the moment. Probably beautiful as usual. I love California, been there many a time, and great to have you on board. Chris wants to know the size of the elephant's brain, and has that got a lot to do with their intelligence, etc., and do they have a big brain as well, Chris is asking. And the answer to that is yes, Chris. They're probably the most, or one of the most complex mammals on the planet. If you do get a chance to have a look at a picture of an elephant's brain, generally speaking, what scientists believe is the more convolutions in the brain. So there's more sort of little squiggly bits that you see when you look at a brain. Not sure if you look at a brain every day, but you know, when you do see a picture, it is quite an impressive piece of computer science that we have in our bodies. It's like our own little computer system, but in an elephant's head, they've got a massive brain, and they do have an incredible ability to do things more so than a lot of other animals. So yes, they do have an incredible brain, and I suppose is an old thing, that old saying, you know, elephants never forget type of thing. I think that's more of a historic saying than anything. And okay, let's just take our time around here. So Chris, hopefully that answered your question. I'll just just scratch. I use a term sometimes folks call scratching around, or just sort of digging around the area. I'm going to do that for a few minutes just to see if we do see Djuma, where Pete left him. Pete left him over there by the looks of things. There's a little shady area there with those weaver nests in there, and then there's a little drop down. We'll just have a little poke around here for a bit and see what we can see. A couple of buffalo over there standing in the cool of the water. They were here earlier, those two, so they haven't done much. I think they're actually potentially the same ones that were here yesterday, that we talked about rumination. So I can see now, here's a nice little bit of bush telegraph, bush newspaper. Can you have a look down there and tell me what you think, folks? I'm going to ask you guys what you think has potentially been here. And I'm going to give you a couple of clues. The clue is right in front of me, and if you want to tweet us and send a couple of answers to us, and you can tell me what you think has happened in this area, and I'm going to give Andrew a couple of a little bit of direction here on what he has to focus on, so I can get the message across to you. So Andrew, I just want you to do a pan there, mate, please, and across here showing the people the water and the algae as well, just here. So I'll just get my head out of the way. And folks, if you want to tweet us and tell me in just a couple of words what you think has happened here in the last, I would probably say 30 minutes. So whilst we're waiting for some of your deductions from this, from the Bush newspaper, I'll just have a little discussion about the Bush newspaper. Now, Stefan is like one of the ultimate people to read the Bush newspaper. You know, there's people that, like my good self, that, you know, flick through the newspaper, pick out the bits you sort of want to see, and then there's people that read the newspaper. And really do look very, very closely at it. And when they read through that newspaper, they will find all sorts of information that you've brushed over. And that's a great analogy for someone like Stefan. Stefan is like that ultimate newspaper reader. So I think that one of the most important things to know is that the more that you read the newspaper, the more you learn, and the more you start to apply it to your conversation, because that's what actually happens. You end up talking to people about what you saw. You talk about to people what you read in the newspaper. It's the same in the bush. When you hear the guides talking around the fire, or you get back for breakfast, it's discussion about the bush newspaper. And that is all the telltale signs, the tracks and signs of what's been happening where, what animals moved where. He's gone west, he's gone south. They didn't see him this morning. They couldn't pick up the tracks. They did see a little, maybe an altercation between two different species at a waterhole or something like that. Excuse me. So the Bush newspaper is a really, really important thing, and it's an absolute pleasure when you start to learn a few tracks and you start to learn a few signs, you start to pick up information, and you can tell what's happened the night before. So I really want to know, and I'm just going to see if any of you have tweeted in to tell me what has happened in this area just here. What has happened in this area just here? So I might get a couple of tweets come through to tell me right in front of our very eyes here there's something really interesting, and you can tell by a couple of telltale marks in this area.
I hear something coming from this side.
Yeah, we've got another buffalo just coming up. Another buffalo joining, a couple of them actually. Another group of bachelors. beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful buffaloes. Right, so folks, I'm going to just come to the crunch, I suppose, and talk about it. You've been fantastic on Twitter. Lots of debate, lots of questions about what has happened right in front of us, and the telltale signs. If we now do that little investigation thing, and it's simple, but at the same time, it's really great to know because what we were looking for before has now made me make a decision. Right up there is fresh elephant, absolutely fresh, beautiful fresh elephant dung. And then if you pan just around here, please, Andrew, you'll see a disturbance in the algal bloom, or the algae, which is that green sort of film over the water here. You can see how it's just out here. It's a little bit tricky to pick up, but there's a bit of disturbance here. So elephants have come down here, stood on the bank here, disturbed the water by moved the algal out of the way and drunk, and then moved on and moved out. So the elephants that I thought were probably still up here have already been down to drink and have moved on. So that sort of bush newspaper information you pick up and you go, right, okay, well they've been here, and we know that they've gone actually probably down there further. And that sort of helps you, rather than going back up and looking for them not up there. They've gone down there. So well done, everyone. The general consensus was that it was elephant dung and that elephants had been here. So hats off to you guys. I should have known. You're an incredible bunch of people that love animals, and you probably knew straight away. But I just thought it was a bit of fun to do, because this bush newspaper is an incredibly important thing in our worlds, and the more we know about it, the better we are. Lovely herd of bachelor boys here. An incredibly important thing in our worlds, and the more we know about it, the better we are. Lovely herd of bachelor boys here. I'm just going to show. Just going to let these boys cross. Look at that, that's so nice to see, isn't it? Animals coming to a water point, really thirsty. They always try and walk in a little bit as well, up to their knees. They might lay down even. All males, all in a bachelor group. Several of the older ones may have been pushed out of the group, and some of the younger ones as well, and then what will happen is they may meet up with a herd and trail behind a herd and potentially try and challenge another male. But generally speaking, the bachelor herds are quite transient, and you will just find solitary bulls as well that do spend the rest of their time by themselves. So well done, everyone. So I've got an interesting question. Severa, one of our Zoomies, and hats off to you. Severa, you do amazing work. All the Zoomies that operate our webcams, our waterhole cameras. Great to have you on board. Wants to know a little bit about those weaver nests. Those weaver nests, she wants to know whether they, A, how long do they stay there, and B, if any other birds will use them. To answer your first part of the question, they will stay there for quite a long period of time, depending on what the weather conditions are, and even for another year, but they probably will come down in a after they deteriorate in a big wind or something like that, or a big rain, they end up falling off. I'll talk something else about what they can be used for after that, after I finish answering the other part of your question. And do other birds use them? I'm not aware of any other birds using them. They're quite a specialised nest. They take quite a long time to build. The male builds the nest and tries to attract a female to the nest, and if he's unsuccessful, he'll do a fantastic display to entice her into the nest, and after he's been successful, well, everything's blissful and happy in Weaverland. But if he's not successful, oh my goodness, it's a disaster. He destroys the nest and starts all over again. So that's the way it happens in their part of the world. But I have seen something interesting, because I think it's really important to understand that human beings have always been in the environment, and I've worked in Namibia with a wonderful community of San people there, and also known as Bushmen, and the San people that I worked with, a lot of the hunters would take out, they would have a couple of these birds' nests in their bag with their arrows, and they would use that really beautiful dry material to, if there was rain, they'd have this dry material that they could light. They could use their stick and the friction method to light a fire, and they would use that dry weaver nest material to start their fire. So lots of little things that you know about and you don't know about until you come across. But Severa, thank you very much for your question. That's a really great question, and thanks for all the fantastic work you do as well. We're going to move on now and head on down. We might bump into these ellies. Well done everyone on the Bush Telegraph, Bush newspaper, sorry, and wonderful consensus of what it was, and you did well. We might drop a few more of those in. It's really nice to have the interaction with you and understand that the more we see, the more we learn from the Bush Telegraph. I call it Telegraph because I've always Telegraph, but people might not know what a Telegraph is, and it's a brand of newspaper that's quite famous where I grew up, and probably all over the world, but Bush newspaper is probably a better term. So we're going to drop down now and see what we can find. Keeping my eyes out for Djuma, but this temperature, I think he's going to be flat somewhere. You never know. So those elephants went cross country. They didn't come down this road. There's no tracks over the tyre tracks. Their spoor went off into the bush that way. Is down in that little sort of dry riverbed or drainage line, we call it, and he is finding a bit of shade because the temperature's definitely up there now, probably up into the 20s, mid-20s it feels like to me. Andrew, what do you think, mate? Yeah. And the flies are definitely wanting to be our friend. Head on down to Twin Dams and just see what the situation is there. This time of the day, animals drinking is probably the best we're going to do at a water point. So whilst I'm driving to Twin Dams, I think it's a great time to cross over to Pete and see what he's up to, and we'll come back and we'll see you just now.
Guys, welcome back on the Jigger. So I was talking about Buffalo and Trias Dam, where we were talking this morning about how nothing can happen at a warthole, and at any second something can happen, the same as a game drive. So I'm sure Aiden had some nice conversations with you there. We're up on Cheetah Cut Line, one of my many favorite roads on Djuma. It's basically the eastern boundary, if you want. And obviously, we always mention this, we have boundaries in the sense of where we can drive because of different people owning different land, and also because of our signal money or our signal limitations. If you want, you can only go so far. But this is the boundary between us and Torchwood, which is to the eastern side. Obviously, for the animals, there's no difference whatsoever. For them, it's all one place. This is also where Q was seen yesterday, the brother to Djuma, the male leopard we saw briefly this morning. And I think we've got a very good chance of finding him this afternoon. He didn't look like he was going to leave that area once. Walking in there, he sort of flushed out a little bit, but he didn't move like a leopard that's going to leave. He just moved like a leopard that, saw there was a human close by and just gave a bit of space. He gave me a little bit of a warning bark, like just like bow, and just moved out. So my feeling was we immediately left him, and that he's going to probably stick around. So maybe this afternoon. In the meantime, as we get towards the end of the morning drive, we're just going to enjoy the view, see what goes along. Never know what you can find. I'm trying to remember. I didn't actually see where exactly they were yesterday, but I saw the pictures or the footage of the leopard up in the tree. One of these kind of marilla trees along the road there. So yeah, enjoy and join us for the last part of the drive. Guys, keep in mind, if you have any questions, maybe something about Africa in general, about the area, Kruger National Park, Djuma that we're in, Arathusa, anything. Maybe you're brand new and you're not sure if this is live. You can ask if this. Let's see this. Who of you sitting here at the moment are not sure if we're live? And we can explain to you that we are. And while we're seeing if there's anyone in the vehicle that might be skeptical whether this is actually live or not, as I said, if you are asked, we can prove it to you very easily. Just put your name and where you're from with it. Pat in Nebraska, Pat's asking, what's the difference or similarities between the climate where we are now and Namibia where I live? Well, firstly, Pat, nice to talk to you. Where I live in Namibia, we actually have very strange climate relative to the rest of the country. The same as you do in anywhere really. I mean, Nebraska would be different from Texas in a major way. Where I live in Namibia is right on the coast. It's from a climate, habitat point of view, very interesting. It's one of the driest areas in the world. I think Walvis Bay is one of the 3 or 4 driest towns in the world. We don't get rain ever. But we get a lot of mist because we've got this cold Benguela current next to us, so we get mist every night, and the desert warms up every day. We've got this beautiful sand desert around us. As opposed to here, in some ways you can say that's similar. We've got a lot of humidity here as well. But the humidity that influences this area is coming from a different ocean altogether. We're on the Atlantic Ocean side, where Walvis and Namibia is. On this side, we have a warm ocean on that side, and that makes a big difference to rainfall, which is the main reason we've got a desert. While this is this beautiful sort of game-rich savanna or mixed bushveld, really. Another similarity, I guess, well, not similarity, but you can compare it, is we do call this the low veld. And often people refer to this general area, Kruger National Park, and everything below the escarpment of the Drakensberg Mountains, which I'll actually try and show you. It's a little bit hazy today, but up ahead we've got a few gaps that you can see the escarpment. It's referred to as the low veld. Obviously the high veld on top of the mountains, low veld down below. But we're only about 300 meters. That's about 800 and something feet above sea level. So we're not very high up. Walvis Bay, where I live, my house is at sea level. I think literally, if we've got a lagoon and there's a break in between. But most of Walvis Bay, the town we live in, is at sea level or was even reclaimed. Some of it was below sea level. So both low-lying areas. But as for the low veld, this is one of my favorite climates and habitats in the world, and I've mentioned this many times to people before. When we were flying down, Hayden and myself flew down from Johannesburg to Hoedspruit, where Will fetched us, and And I said to him just before we got out the plane, I said, it's one of my favorite things in the low veld. You climb out, and as that plane door opens, as you step into it, you taste it, you feel it. It's like you walk into the atmosphere. It's a very, what's a good word for it? Poignant or very atmospheric. I mean, you get the sense of atmosphere around you in the low veld. You get the sense of oxygen. You get the sense of moisture, and I love that about the low veld. It feels very alive, which is also what tracks that we've got here. Some hyena tracks from last night, and some leopard tracks, but that's from the leopard nest that we walked across. So yeah, some similarities and differences between the desert on the west coast and the low veld, game rich bushveld. So it'll be on the southeastern coast if you want, close to the southeastern coast. Well, this is fresh actually. Guys, we're going to follow these tracks. I think there's one or two more questions. We'll answer one or two of those while we talk. And see, there's been a car over it, but that track was not from last night. That was this morning. Although you might have gone into Torchwood. Guys, we're going to keep following these leopard tracks a bit. They're quite interesting, but we might have to walk around a little bit. And then, sorry, there was a question, but I really couldn't catch the name. It was a bit difficult. The radio's breaking up. I think it was Beth. Brian, could you make it out? A question from Maryland. Beth, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong from control side, but just asking what the name Djuma means. Djuma. Beth from Maryland. The word Djuma, which is the name of this reserve, D-J-U-M-A. So I have to explain it in two ways. It's loosely translated as the sound of a lion or the roar of the lion. You could almost say, you know, the herald of the lion. In Djuma, more specifically, it would also mean tracking or stalking, actually, more specifically. So the movement of lion or the awareness of lion. So depending on where you want to sort of situate the meaning of the word in that explanation. The quick sort of catchphrase version would be roar of the lion for the lodge, for the place. But in the language itself, it can also refer more to stalking or tracking through the bush. Having said that, animals that don't stalk a lot through the bush, because they don't need to, they don't have to worry about anything around them. Enjoy it. HT is going to talk to you a little bit, and I'll probably see you just before end of drive to say goodbye.
Okay folks, well I found those Ellies. They did come down to that water point, they did go down to Twin Dams, and we're just going to try and move on in here. Thanks mate. I'm alright buddy, thank you very much mate. It's alright to move on? Thanks mate. Thank you very much. Cheers mate, good to see you matey. So I'm just going to park up here folks. There's a little baby there, my goodness, I tell you, it's such a youngster, and I want you to see this, so I do apologise, I'm just manoeuvring my vehicle, and there's a couple of other vehicles here, and I'm going to just reverse up a little bit. Andrew, how am I there, mate? Good? Okay, all good. Ephraim, thanks buddy, thank you mate. The guys are so lovely. Does that look good for you, mate? You tell me when you want me to stop. Stop. Okay. How beautiful is that? Now look at that youngster, folks. When Andrew zooms in here, there is a very, very young baby standing underneath its mother's its mother's belly there. So tiny. It's not the one that's just walked off. It's even smaller. It's just about to stick its head out now. I think if you go... Yeah, there we go. There we go. That little guy there. Oh my goodness. How small is that? So fantastic. Oh, that's beautiful to see, isn't it? Real beautiful. They lavish their youngsters in maternal care. It's just beautiful to see. And they're having a beautiful mud wallow there. So that is a breeding herd, folks, and you'll probably hear that term used a lot. Breeding herd refers to the matriarch and related females, cousins, and their offspring. And the bulls only actually come into the herd, and I know probably a lot of people already know this, but just for those of you that are learning about elephants, the bulls trail the herd if the females are in estrus, basically meaning whether they're in season or not. And normally the boys are off in either bachelor herds or solitary situations, and they only come into those herds to mate. So you normally see these strong, very, very tightly knit family groups or breeding herds, but that baby is tiny. Really, that's this year definitely, and still fitting underneath. Look at the size of that. Wow. Beautiful. And it's still getting to know what the trunk is used for as well, which is a great thing. Always watching elephants figure out what that massive long appendages hanging out from their head, and then they get to use that, they get to learn how to use that over a period of time, and to know that it's their most impressive tool in their anatomy. They just use that for everything, for feeding, for communicating, for drinking, for drawing water up and blowing into their mouth, dust bathing. And you can see the matriarch has just given the signal. She's the one at the front with that youngster. She's given the signal to move off, and everyone is moving off, and that's her offspring. Look at that little guy. Just over 100 kilos, or about 220 pounds when they're born. Maybe a bit heavier than that, but all depends on many things. But one thing I've never ever seen, and I don't think I've ever actually met anyone that's seen it in the wild, but I know loads of people have, but I've never met anyone that's seen an elephant give birth in the wild. Wow, that's beautiful. So that matriarch dictates everything. She dictates the moves silently, silently to us, communicating at a frequency that we can't even hear. And as soon as she makes the move, everyone moves. How wonderful is that? We might just move up and see if we can. We'll wait until they leave shot just here, and we'll just see then if we can still pick them up, because they look they're walking parallel to the road. But I'm just looking at my watch now, and we've got about 10 minutes to go. The sun is beating down here. Just to give you an update on, they're probably going to cross the road actually. They might even cross the road. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on them quickly, and I might have to keep turning away from camera, so bear with me. But just to give you a picture, as soon as that sun heats up and the wind dies down, you'll find that a lot of these animals will be looking for shaded areas under these beautiful big jackalberries or marula trees or whatever it may be, or the herds sometimes fall into these little valleys where they can get shade as well. When I say fall, walk into. Yeah, I think they are going to cross the road. So what we're going to do is be hugely respectful to this mother. She's going to be like, her toleration is probably, her tolerance, sorry, is going to be, a little bit, maybe a little bit shorter than other animals, because her youngster is so young. But at the same time, she's probably a very experienced female, and we can just get a really beautiful view. They may not cross the road, I'm not sure. They're feeding as they go. So just going to pull up in this little bit of shade for us humans. And I don't know if you can get to see anything in there. Andrew, can you see any shots? You've got a couple of animals moving through. Okay, well look, I think we just play our cards right here, and I'm just having a think about what to do, and looking down at my watch and wanting to place us in a lovely position here. I think if we just really gingerly walk up here, we don't want to surprise her, so she can hear me, and that's the most important thing. I can see the vegetation moving, and it's really important that you do not ever compromise the animal's behavior and change her direction or anything like that. And out of respect and just morals and ethics, I would never do it. But at the same time, you don't want to come around from behind a bush and startle her. That's why I'm leaving the engine running. She's probably going to be fine by the looks of things, but I'm just going to creep up a little bit more. It's alright, my girl. Easy, babe. Easy. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I might just cross over to Pete, see what he's up to, and so he can also say farewell, and just stick with these guys, and if they cross the road, we're in a perfect position now, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so we'll just do that. We'll be back with you just now.
Well guys, welcome back this side again, probably for the last time this morning. We're just almost back at Buffelshoek Dam. We decided to come past here again. It is a waterhole, it's getting hot. So we're going to have a quick look here. Maybe there's another surprise. We were here about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. And then we're going to go back to Hayden and the elephants for the last part, unless there's, of course, you know, a herd of leopards busy drinking or something. But it's been a lovely morning. I love the mornings, just to start with. It was a beautiful early morning with the sunrise. We had Djuma as well, so we've seen in the last 12 hours, we've seen both the brothers, Q and K, or Q and Djuma, and lots to look forward to this afternoon. Lots of illies around, that's great to know. Buffalo, obviously, we've seen quite a few of them. So do make sure you join us for the afternoon drive, and as always, such a pleasure to have you with us. Give it 2 seconds before we go back to H. Just arriving at the waterhole, and Impala in the distance. Guys, this waterhole, just on a quick footnote, there's the Impala. You're not really going to see them, they're running around in the bushes there, but this waterhole you will get to know very well this winter. There hasn't been that much rain, so towards the middle and end of winter, as it gets drier, it will get very, very productive around this waterhole. You will see big herds of buffalo, big herds of ellies. You will see a lot of leopard here, a lot of lion. So, you know, sort of mark the spot for future reference. Otherwise, just thank you very much. It was an awesome drive. I really enjoyed it. Saw one of my favorite leopards. My name's Peter Pretorius. It's a pleasure having you as our guest today. Brian behind the camera. Thanks, all the guys in control. Have a lovely morning, and enjoy your last few minutes with Hayden. See you this afternoon. Bye-bye.
Let's move on. Folks, they just a couple have crossed here. I'm just moving up in respectful distance, of course, so you can see them a little bit better, keeping an eye to my right because the rest of the herd is just here, and I don't want to ever come in between, but I do want you to see this little one cross the road with the mum. We had a question ever so quickly. We had a question from Sherry in Ohio. Hi Sherry, great to have you with us, and really great. Thanks for all your fantastic tweets and communication in the past as well. Sherry wants to know what the height of one of these females, or the tallest female, would be. It's probably about 8.5 feet, about 2.5 meters at the shoulder. That's roughly a guesstimate, and the male's obviously much taller. But this little youngster, I really want him to cross the way in front of us if we do. Stay here. There's a couple of them about to move across now. Just looking at my watch to making sure. This is beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. You might see me occasionally just turn over my shoulder and look around, folks. I promise you it's just out of respect for the animals that I'm not compromising their pathway, and just really sitting with these animals just till we close now. Absolutely beautiful. What a fantastic day. All I can say to you is thank you very much. It's been an absolutely brilliant morning for me. Elephants are one of my favorite creatures on the planet, and boy do we spend some time with them. Pete with all these fantastic little encounters with Djuma, and a really beautiful time. We're going to be back with you this afternoon. We've just got a vehicle that's pulled up behind us, so folks, I do apologise. We're going to be back with you this afternoon on the Sunset Drive. Please join us. It'd be great. If you've got any questions, tweet us at #SafariLive, or you can email us at questions@WildEarth.tv. It's been brilliant. Really enjoyed your questions this morning. It's just a great morning, and wow, I tell you, look at this little guy. Beautiful stuff. The rest of the herd is just over here, and they're all going to pass across. So whilst they get into shadier areas this morning, we're going to get into a shadier area too. And again, thank you very much for being with us this morning, folks. It's been a really great morning to remember. And yeah, I'm going to sign off and let you see these beautiful pictures for a while of these elephants. Thank you so much, guys.